Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm doing another video because today just received a bulletin from the IRS that they have published Form 7202, which is a credit for sick leave and family leave for certain self-employed individuals. So now they're finally expanding this out to self-employed people. Because they've literally haven't had much opportunity to take advantage of some of these credits that are available to corporations, S corps and C corps. So that's going to be really nice. And obviously, you're still able to get some kind of PPP money, but this is going to be a nice little credit for a lot of people out there that are going to need some funds. So let me go ahead and start the presentation. So you could see my other screen. And so this is the form. All right. This is a 7202. And it just, it's been out a little bit. It's been out for a few days, maybe over a week. But they did finally publish the bulletin today. So I wanted to jump on it because filing starts in a few days on the 12th. So if you're not aware of this, I wanted to make you aware of it. And so we're going to start with the 7202. What is this? It's a very, like any other IRS form, it looks more intimidating than it is. And there are a lot of micro calculations. So I just kind of exported this out to a spreadsheet so I can work the numbers a little bit better. But let's kind of review who can take it. All right. And it follows all the language of the, paid sick leave, refundable credit. It follows the language of the act. So whoever is a W-2 employee, likely your employer's already got this covered for you and has either, included this as part of your wages in some way, or in some cases, they may have even bonused you out. So that's, I think a client of mine a couple of weeks ago had mentioned that they're getting like $20,000 bonus based on these credits. So that was very nice for the employer to do that. That's obviously an employer that's doing well and is willing to share some of the relief that they're receiving on behalf of their employees who've been under a lot of pressure, as we all have. So let's take a look at this. So there's some criteria here. First is the employee under federal, state, in order to qualify with paid sick leave, if the employee is unable to work, including telework, due to any of the following: the employee is under federal, state, local quarantine or isolation order relative to COVID-19. The employee has been advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine due to concerns related to COVID. The employee is experiencing symptoms of COVID and seeking medical diagnosis. These first three are going to be important, and I'll explain why. Because they're related to the two different credits. And then 4, the employee is caring for an individual who is subject to federal, state, local quarantine or isolation and has been advised by a healthcare provider. 5, the employee is caring for the child of such employee if the school or place of care of a child has been closed or the child care provider of such child is unavailable. 6, if the employee is experiencing any other substantially similar conditions specified by the Department of Health and Human Services. Okay, so that's that, and we're gonna dive into. And here's the actual link, IRS newsroom. I'll post this on my website at some point as well. But this is pretty much a copy and paste. It was just a little bit easier to read, and I wanted it documented. So let's get into the form now. Again, I exported it so I could actually do the calculations a little better. This is example 1. This is if you're self-employed and you're self-employed and you meet one of these 3 criteria that I just mentioned. Almost everybody really has had to quarantine at one point or another. So I'm not really sure exactly, what substantiation you need, but clearly, if you're going to take this credit, you're going to want to at least have something to show that you went in for a swab and, things like that. I don't know. I mean, this is just, we're the practitioners here. We look at the forms, we file them, we assume that you're meeting the criteria. It will ask you if you do. You know, I don't know if anyone's going to look back at this stuff, but certainly, you know, a lot of us have had at least, you know, one or all of these situations. So let's assume that's the case. And let's assume, because most of us who have been really following the rules have been laid up or are teleworking. You know, even if we're self-employed and we normally telework, we still might have to, you know, we're not able to go see clients. We're not able to move around. So basically they're saying up to 10 days, number of days unable to perform. And that's typically, they're allowing up to 10. Okay. So that's really the rule there. So let's assume we do the 10. Okay. Let me see if I could expand this a little bit more now. And so this is related. Line 1, number of days you're unable to perform services as self-employed individual because of certain coronavirus related care you required. So it's important to remember you. That's right there. And it's if, you know, let's start with line 1 and meet this criteria. So that's 10. And then you just kind of follow the instructions. Okay. Number of days you're unable to perform services as self-employed because of certain coronavirus care you provided to another person. So that could be a family member. And the reason why it's important is a different credit for different situations. It's up to $511 a day max. If it's for yourself, and it's a max $200 a day if it's to care for somebody else. So that's an important distinction to make. In this case, I'll run through the other example in a second, but in this case, we're just going to say it's for us. And so we're at 0 there, and it says if you're filing a fiscal year return, see instructions, otherwise 10. I don't really file fiscal year returns. I never have. So 10 there. Enter the smaller of line 1 or 3. Well, 1 or 3 are the same. Don't you love how these rules are written? So 10 can't be smaller than 10, right? So it's just 10 over there. So subtract line 4 from line 3, we get 0. Enter the smaller of line 2 or 5. Well, 2 and 5 are 0, so it's 0. And then this is important. So net earnings from self-employment. So the IRS said you can use your 2019 numbers for this. They might be higher than what your 2020 numbers are going to be. So I'm just going to make an assumption. You know, I'm just going to go with 2019 since we still haven't really processed 2020 yet. But you can use either or. So 50,000 there, and then it says divide line 7 by 260. That's 192.31. And then it says enter the smaller of line 8. Okay, we already calculated that 50,000 divided by 260 is 192. And the smaller of line 8 or 511 is 192.31. And that's where that cap is for that 511. And then it's going to make us do another calculation to calculate the other part of this. So one is for you, the other is for someone you cared for. And then it's saying, okay, well, multiply line 8 by 67%. That's just a rule they have in terms of how to calculate it. There's no deeper meaning behind that. So line 11 is 67% of line 8, right? So, and then it goes on to say, okay, well, enter the smaller of line 11 or 200. So line 11 is 128, the smaller is 128.85. So this is what we do. This is how we figured this out, just like everybody else. And then it says multiply line 6 by line 12. Well, line 6 by 12, when you multiply 0, we get 0. Remember? I think I remember that from grammar school. So that's that. Add lines 10 and 13. 10 and 13 is, and that's a formula, so let me highlight that. So 1923.10, okay? And this is asking if amount of qualified sick subject to 511 a day you receive from an employer. So this might apply to you if you kind of had a mix of income, or you had W-2 part of the year and then you were independent another part of the year. And I'll show you how that kind of lays out later in an example. But in this case, we're just going to say 100% of your income is self-employment. Well, it says here, if line 15 and 16 are both 0, which they are, then skip to line 24 and enter the amount on line 14. And enter the amount from line 14, my apologies. And that's your credit. And then it says, subtract 23 from line 14. If 0 or less, enter 0. Enter the amount to be included on Schedule 3 of the Form 1040 12B. And that's it. So that's how you get that. Well, what if you had a combination of a little bit of both here? So I did another example. And to meet this criteria, in addition to meeting the previous, you have to care for an individual. The employee is caring for the child, such employee if the school place, I already kind of read through those earlier. So let's divide that evenly. And, these are the numbers then. If you're, again, so 5 and 5, and then it does all these other calculations. Because the credit for the caring for someone else is a little bit less, that's why the refund is a little bit less. So, that's why you'll notice a few $100 difference there. And then it gets really goofy. This is very confusing. And for all intents and purposes, if you're self-employed and you have no other W-2 income, this should be fairly straightforward. If you see in the numbers that, if you're confused by them, let me know in the comments. And I'm going to review this again. This is by no means my final. This just came out today. I might discover something, even though this seems pretty well laid out and simple to compute, but you never know. What happens here is, I'm going with example 2, and then you have some wages. Let's say you earn $40,000 of wages, and during the cover period, let's say you had 2 days during the covered period, and you have $307. Well, all of a sudden, the way this lays out, it's calculating a 0. This has to be 0 because it's negative. So I need to dive a little bit deeper on that one. I'm not sure, and you might have the same problem there. So we're not sure if that might be the way it's laid out, a formula error or what, or just my error. That's probably the first possibility. But just wanted to get this out there so you all have it and you could start playing with the numbers a little bit. And it's not intimidating. You can go to the Form 7200, just Google it. These are the instructions, Form 7202. And these are the full instructions. And I always recommend, and you remember, we as practitioners, as accountants and CPAs, the Act says one thing, and we rely on the IRS to interpret the Act and lay out the intent of the Act and how we're supposed to put those numbers in a form that's going to conform and comply. So that's why we're always looking at FAQs on the IRS website, and we're always looking at instructions, because to us, the people filing the forms and signing off on these things, those are the most important. Certainly, they opened up a lot of, they opened up filing for the ERTC to amend returns with very vague guidance, and especially with respect to coordination of credits and everything else. So just wanted to lay that out there for you as well. That's it. So thanks again. Who was asleep before halftime yesterday? Raise your hand. That was me. Disappointing game. But there's always next year. So anyway, I will talk to you all soon. And don't forget to subscribe. If you like it, great. If you don't like these videos, and you check off dislike, give me the courtesy of letting me know why, so that I can improve the video for you. Maybe there's something you want to see. Maybe you don't think I'm explaining enough, or I don't know what it is. But just give me the courtesy if you dislike it to let me know why. I appreciate it. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll check back soon.